Thousands of you enjoyed the NHL opening week $9 special, so it's only fair that we offer the NBA fans the same deal. Every NBA daily package for the opening week through Monday, October 25th is just $9. That's right, you will not be paying $25 for a package, nor will you be paying $35 for 5% best bets for the opening week of the NBA, as all daily basketball packages are only $9. Make sure to tune in every Monday through Friday for the NBA tip-off show on Wager Talk TV, and then save and start the NBA season with a slam dunk deal.
Welcome into the NFL Opening Line Report, week number 7, right here on the Wager Talk YouTube channel. I am Drew Martin, joined by Teddy Covers. Teddy, welcome to the show, buddy. Hopefully bounce back mode this week, right?
Yeah, I mean, I got my butt kicked yesterday. Though, for as bad as I had a day, the books had a worse day than I did.
Yeah.
So, this happens a couple times a year where the public wins pretty much every play in the NFL. That was certainly the case yesterday. I do a tweet every Sunday morning where I'm like, here's my take on today's sharp square divide. And yesterday, the quote unquote the Joes, there were 4 plays listed, and all 4 of them won and covered, including Dallas, which wasn't necessarily an easy one for the books to cash. But good day for the Joes, good day for bettors, bad day, very bad day for bookmakers yesterday. And again, this happens, all right? It's not unusual to see a weekend or 2 or 3, oftentimes in October, where the books get clocked, and the books got absolutely crushed yesterday. Make no mistake about it. And yet, funny, Drew, you drive down the strip last night, all the lights are still on. Even after a bad day, somehow the books managed to survive and make it to Monday morning.
It's amazing. It really is how those hotels in Las Vegas stay open. You know, the light's still on. You're right, Teddy. But hey, well, we'll continue here as sports bettors, trying to find out the winners, guys. And point of the show here, getting on the right side of some of these moves. First up, though, Teddy, we are recording on Monday. Going live, by the way, 10 a.m. Pacific time each and every Monday. We do have the Monday nighter tonight, Tennessee Titans, Buffalo Bills. Just real quick here for the people watching live and anybody watching on Monday, -6.5. We've seen a huge move here towards Buffalo, -6 or -6.5, depending what sports book you're going off of. 53.5 being the total. Like I talked about, pretty much all week here. Buffalo taking money. Teddy, anything quickly on tonight's Monday Night Football?
I mean, Buffalo's only going to keep taking more money. The Joes are not betting Tennessee, and the pros are not betting Tennessee. So if you like the Bills and you haven't gotten down already, there's still 6s out there. I'm not convinced that they'll be there by kickoff. So I would say there's at least some urgency for the Buffalo side here. Total-wise, I'm seeing indications that this number, the sharp money, is going to come on the under. All right. Now, the public money to the over may be enough to offset that, but I wouldn't be shocked if this total drops between now and kickoff, at least a half point, maybe a point. Wouldn't be shocked if that happens. Again, the leading indicator books down to 53 on this total, even though the broader market's still at 53.5. And I don't see the 54s at all right now. So, but the urgency would be towards the Buffalo side more than the total side. I'm not seeing an immediate indicator that this total's getting bet down. I am seeing across the board that the money's coming for Buffalo.
And Teddy, just a follow-up to that, because, -6.5 at some shops right now. It's a primetime Monday Night Football game. How much of a move could we possibly get? What could the high water mark be on the Buffalo Bills tonight?
7?
Could it be 7, 7.5?
Oh, yeah. No, it's not getting 7.5.
No, okay.
No, there's no way it goes to 7.5. That's, barring some late injury or something. It's highly unlikely it would get to 7.5, but it could move to 7. Whenever you're talking about around a key number, of course, the most important key numbers in the NFL, 3 and 7. Second to that are 4 and 6. So anytime we're talking about those type of key numbers, 6 to 6.5 to 7, it's the kind of thing that you don't want to be on the wrong end of. Why push a game where you can win?
Absolutely. Get the best of the number, guys, whenever possible. We got opening line report style starting right here, Teddy. Week 7, Thursday night, 309, 310, the rotation numbers here. Denver at Cleveland. Short week here, Teddy, for both teams. 43 being the total. The Broncos hitting the road here with the Browns, -4 point home favorites. There is a 4.5 offshore What are we thinking here, Broncos and Browns, to kick it off? NFL opening line report style Thursday night.
Let's doodly-oop right from the get-go, my friend, because this is an emergency betting alert. Doodly-oop.
Doodly-oop. Doodly-oop. Emergency betting alert. Doodly-oop. Doodly-oop.
If you, and we didn't get we were supposed to get what's the word I'm looking for? A soundbite for that. We didn't put it together for this week. That being said, if you like the Broncos, bet it right now. There are still 4.5s out there. There will not be 4.5s out there for much longer. They'll be gone. They're already disappearing, and I don't think they're going to be there at all moving forward. Look ahead line with Cleveland 6, total of 44. My power rating number is Cleveland 5. And the markets today, obviously the money coming for Denver. You can understand why. All right. There are two factors to consider here. One, look at Cleveland in terms of injuries and defensive acumen. All right. This team is a mess injury-wise right now. Offensive line, both tackles out. Cluster injuries in the secondary. Both running backs got hurt yesterday. Hunt and Chubb. Chubb didn't play. Hunt's dicey. Oh, and by the way, Baker Mayfield's left arm was in a sling when he talked to the media after the game. Quote, it dislocated again and then slipped out again on a non-contact play. So we just got to figure out a way to get better. Then he was asked if he plans to play on Thursday night. Quote, absolutely. Worth noting the backup QB here is Case Keenum. If Keenum does have to suit up, there's no way that Cleveland goes off at more than a field goal in this contest. So, many injuries all up and down the field for Cleveland, both sides of the field. And, of course, it's a defense that's allowed 8 touchdowns and 11 red zone tries over the last 2 weeks. So really struggling defensively. And under Kevin Stefanski, they hadn't lost 2 in a row until their last 2 ball games. Now it's a losing streak for Cleveland for the first time in the Stefanski era. Of course, it's not like things are great for Denver. They've lost 3 in a row. Von Miller after the game, basically, we're not doing enough to win. It's nobody's fault. We got to point the finger at ourselves. We got all kinds of talented people everywhere. We've got to trust each other. Noah Fant after the game, the tight end. Von said it. It's time for everyone to look in the mirror, see what they're doing wrong, not just looking at everyone else, just farming our own land instead of looking around. I don't love that quote. It's teammates talking to other teammates in the media, which is a little bit dicey. And, of course, it's 3 straight losses for Denver. They've got all kinds of issues in terms of their own injury problems. They gave up, this is a Broncos team that's relied on their defense. They gave up 7 plays at 25 yards or more against Denver yesterday. Safety Justin Simmons, quote, simply put, we got our butts whipped. We got to play better. I definitely have to play better. At a certain point, you can't just say it. It has to be fixed. So real sense of urgency for both these two teams. Injury problems for both these two teams. Defensive problems for both these two teams. The money clearly coming for Denver, as Cleveland's looking a little bit like a false favorite, especially with the concerns about Baker Mayfield.
Farming our own land. That's an intriguing quote there, Teddy. That one caught my
great quote.
Caught my ear. Yeah, absolutely. And you bring up, Case Keenum might be taking snaps here. How far of a drop off is it in your numbers from Baker to Case Keenum? I have memories of him throwing the ball around at the Houston Cougars making some money, but this is a whole different level here, Teddy.
Sure. Keenum's the type of guy who can come in and have an effective start.
Yeah.
I wouldn't want Keenum for weeks or months on end. For 1 week, you'd make the drop off, 2 or 3 points. It's not one of these situations where you're looking at a 6, 7, 8 point drop off between the starting quarterback and the backup, like you are, let's say, in Seattle, for example, where the market's made a huge adjustment from Russell Wilson to Geno Smith. This isn't that, especially with Mayfield going through his fair share of struggles last week.
Yeah, that's what I was thinking as well. Guys, we're going to move to the Sunday slate here. October 24th, Week 7 NFL, going down in rotation order. The 1 o'clock Eastern, 10 a.m. Pacific kicks first. Then the afternoon kicks. 4-5-1, 4-5-2, top of the Sunday card. Cincinnati at Baltimore. We're seeing the Ravens -6.5, pretty much across the board here, Teddy. 47 or 47 in the hook as the total.
Yeah, and of course, with all these games, what I'm going to do is I give the look-ahead line. This is a bettable line from the Westgate here in Las Vegas, a Superbook from last week on these games. I'll give you my power rating number, then we talk about where the number is and where it's likely to go. For Baltimore, look-ahead line, 6.5 and 48 over Cincy. My power rating number came out a half point higher at 7. The markets are at 6.5. right now, and I'm not seeing any indication this number is going to move. Total sitting 47 and a half. A little bit down from the look ahead at 48. And again, every quote coming out of Cincy is a positive one right now. Remember, this was a 4-win team last year. They finished 4-11. Now they're 4-2. All right. So, Zach Taylor had won 6 games in 2 years. They went 2-14 in year 1. And now they're 4-2 right now. This is the first time they've experienced success in any recent time. And Zach Taylor, it's worth noting, first Burrows quote, the sky's the limit for this team. And again, the defense blew up Detroit yesterday. Outgained them 5.9 to 3.7 yards per play. So you have those +2 yards per play differential in any given game. It's worth noting. And it's worth noting what Coach Taylor said after the game. Quote, talk about Jared Goff taking 42 attempts for 202 yards and an INT against that defense. That was a great showing by an entire defense. The yards per attempts must have been really low. So the coach is already thinking analytically. One of the reasons we seem to like Zach Taylor, certainly this year. That to me is one of those quotes that tells you a little bit. All that being said, Baltimore is playing some pretty dominant football. Is this a fat and happy spot? Maybe. Linebacker Josh Bynes after yesterday's win. This is definitely the first game this season where we played complementary football, all 3 phases. We definitely appreciate these kind of games after especially what we've been through the last several weeks. And of course, for the running backs don't matter category, 3 guys who Baltimore signed off the waiver wire: Latavius Murray, Le'Veon Bell, Devonta Freeman. None of them were on the roster at the start of the training camp. They got them all for pennies on the dollar, and they all scored touchdowns yesterday after their big-name, high-priced running backs all got hurt. So worth noting, this quote from Justin Herbert after the Ravens shut down the Chargers yesterday. Quote, "It's a lot of looks that we didn't see on film that they kind of constructed just for us. They did a great job of disguising their looks and bringing pressure from one way and hiding from another. Looks that they hadn't showed all season. Looks that we have to be better at adjusting to during a game." That's speaking about the Ravens coaching staff and what the game plans they're putting together. When you're designing a game plan with a bunch of stuff that the opposing team hasn't seen on film and they can't figure out, that tends to be a bet on sign. It's also worth noting the Ravens just got their first-round draft choice, Rashad Bateman, who played his first game, 4 passes for 29 yards. Although he did have a drop that got bounced off his hands and into a defender's hands. That was one of Lamar's 2 interceptions in that ball game. All of a sudden, the Ravens' passing game looking every bit as dynamic as a running game. Baltimore and Cincy both showing bet on signs right about now.
Great analysis to start the Sunday slate here from Teddy. Covers Cincinnati, Baltimore, on to Carolina and the New York Giants. We're seeing -2.5 or -3, hovering around a real key number here, Teddy. That is the Carolina Panthers short road favorites, 44 the total in New York.
Yeah, and this is one, obviously, it's a split line as we speak. I'm not sure which way it's going to go. That's why there's no doodly-oop right here. If I was confident it was going to move to 3 everywhere, I'd tell you guys, doodly-oop and lay the 2.5 now. If I was confident that it was going to stay at 2.5, I'd say doodly. The point is, this is not an easy game to determine where the number is going to move. It's going to be based on the Giants injury report, which we don't know right now. Look headline here, Carolina 3, total of 45. My powering number is only Carolina 2. And the market's, again, at 2.75/2.8 this morning. There's some problems for the Panthers right now. That 3-0 start, much like Denver, it's a long way in the rearview mirror now. The one positive thing is Sam Darnold made a drive. They were down 20-20 with 2 minutes to play, and Darnold put together a 98-yard touchdown drive, which included multiple 4th down conversions and the 2-point conversion to tie the game. But of course, the Vikings won the coin toss, and that was it for overtime, and that was it for Carolina. But they gave up 571 yards of offense to Minnesota. And Sam Darnold was pretty awful yesterday. They turned the ball over. The wide receiver didn't help. Moore had a bad game. Anderson had a bad game. They had 8 drops. Moore turned the ball over on a fumble. Matt Rule after the game. What Sam needs right now is a little help from his friends. More Matt Rule. We have to figure out with Christian out what our identity is. People are playing a two-man thing on DJ Moore to make sure he doesn't catch the ball. We tried Robbie and some other guys. Those guys have to make some plays, and we have to help them find ways to make plays. So there's urgency now for Carolina. It's a rough couple of games for the Panthers. I worry about that team's confidence level right now, but whatever confidence level there is, it's more confident in the Giants, who, again, the longest completion in a game where they lost by 27 points with Danny Jones, who chucks downfield and a bevy of weapons around him, was 17 yards yesterday. Right? They're trailing 28-3 at the half. Joe Judge says, go out and play in the second half, and they didn't. Logan Ryan, the Giants safety after the game. I'm extremely disappointed. It's not acceptable, to be honest. I think we had to go out there in the second half and fight so that we could try to earn some respect. That just hasn't been acceptable. The results, so it's not good. They got their left tackle, Andrew Thomas, back, and then he got hurt. From a receiving standpoint, we're talking about a team that's missing just about, Galladay's out, Slayton's out, Tony got hurt yesterday. They still have some weapons. It's like Sterling Shepard, Dante Pettis, John Ross. The Lions would take that trio as their receiving core. But Danny Jones struggling, the offensive line struggling, the defense getting pushed around, and turnovers, injuries everywhere for the G-men. Joe Judge, I'm not expecting to see a ton of market support for the Giants anytime soon in Carolina, despite their recent woes. We'll see what that Giants injury report looks like. But if it's bad, no surprise if the Panthers get bet up to -3. And frankly, right now, even with Darnold's struggles, Carolina might well be a better team than New York. The Giants are looking like bottom.
Teddy, this next game I've had circled. Excited for your opinion on this one. Washington football team, Green Bay Packers. We're seeing the Packers -9.5 point home favorites, 49 being the total. The reason I say I circled it is because interested in your opinion on where this line is going. I think it's a tricky one. We get the Washington football team kind of underperforming so far this season from preseason expectations, just 1-5 against the spread. Green Bay Packers 5-1 against the spread at home, but yet it's a larger spread of -9.5. Interested in your opinion on where you think this one's going, Green Bay and Washington football team.
Well, it's a short week. I mean, it's a light week in the NFL with 6 teams on bye. There's only 13 games. Mm-hmm. 4 of those 13 have double-digit point spreads, so this one's been bet down. But, we've got the 17-point spread we're going to talk about, and a 16-point spread that we're going to talk about, and a 13.5 point spread we're going to talk about. So in terms of competitively priced games, this week is relatively light in that regard. Look ahead line here, Green Bay -7.5, total of 50. My powering number has the Packers -11. The market's open 10 and have moved down to 9.5 this morning. And Drew, let's do a doodly-oop right here because there are still 10s out there.
Doodly-oop, doodly-oop, emergency betting alert. Doodly-oop, doodly-oop.
There's 2 of them today. The first one was on Denver Plus, and this one is on Washington Plus. There are +10s on Washington still out there right now. They're not going to be there. The markets are moving 9.5/9, and it has everything to do with the spot for Green Bay. Coming off a very 5 straight wins since the opener. Very satisfying division win against Chicago yesterday. Now you return home. It's a flat spot. And the markets are responding to that. And injuries for Green Bay. And again, the quote from Aaron Jones, it shows we can win games in multiple ways. We have the leaders we need. We have everyone in the locker room that we need to get the job done to continue to work in and stack success. Again, unbeaten since that 38-3 loss to the Saints in the opener. Josh Myers, the center, got hurt yesterday, although Matt LaFleur says, I don't think it's going to be a season ender. For Washington, and again, they finished with just 276 yards against Kansas City and their lowest point total of the season. Ron Rivera, we didn't handle adversity in the second half the way we needed to. When you have a chance, you have to take advantage of it, and we didn't. Chase Young, after the game, I feel like slipped through our fingers a bit. First half, again, they went into halftime with a lead against Kansas City, forced 3 turnovers, and second half was not pretty. Chase Young, quote, first half we were solid, getting the quarterback, forcing turnovers. We got to look at it. So it's not like Washington's showing us a bunch of bet on signs. Clearly, Heineke is not the answer. Now, we've seen it again, for the better part of the last month, where he's struggling in a lot of different ways. In theory, it's supposed to be a Washington get-right game, and in theory, it's supposed to be a Green Bay flat spot, and that's why we're going to see wise guy money for the dog in this one. We've already seen some already. I'm expecting that money flow to continue. So if you like Washington, again, you can find +10s right now at a handful of books. Those won't be there tomorrow.
I like it, Teddy. Good stuff so far. Halfway through the 1 o'clock Eastern, 10 a.m. Pacific kicks. Kansas City at Tennessee. Next game up, of course, limited marketplace with the Titans playing tonight, but we are seeing some Kansas City -4 or -4.5, depending what sports book we're going off of. Teddy, 56 being the total in Nashville.
The look-ahead number was KC 3 and 56.5. And again, the Titans haven't played. And KC played a bottom feeder, all right, and trailed at the half. The look-ahead line was 3, and now the look-ahead line, now we're looking at 4.5s and 5s. Okay, so there's clearly the markets viewed Kansas City's win yesterday as a turning point for the Chiefs. My number is Chiefs 2.5, and I'm not all that high on Tennessee. I'm not convinced that Kansas City solved their problems with yesterday's win. And again, this is Patrick Mahomes for the entirety of the 2019 season had 5 interceptions. The entirety of the 2020 season, he had 6 interceptions. He's got 8 already this year. And here's Mahomes' quote after the game. In the second half, I kept doing stuff. He threw for 397 yards and a couple of touchdowns. Quote, I kept throwing across my body and doing a lot of different type of stuff because I know these guys believe in me, and I'm going to keep being that and keep fighting to the end. The way we did it, even though it wasn't pretty in the first half, hopefully it will get us rolling. How this season's gone and the adversity we've dealt with, it could have spiraled. But I thought the guys, it was a lot of mental toughness to go back and battle. That's an interesting quote. With the adversity we've dealt with, it could have spiraled, which tells us that it could still spiral if they face adversity for Kansas City. And again, you have a defense that's coming off their best effort of the season. The first time they held an opponent under 29 points. But they're certainly facing a tougher offense this time around. It's not a KC defense that's healthy. It's not a KC defense that I'm trusting in a let's lay points to them type of way, even though the Chiefs are now, 3-13 against the spread in their last 16 ball games. We'll have to see. Obviously, if you like the Titans tonight, make 2 bets, not 1. Take them tonight plus the points, and you can take them next week plus the points. They win this game. This number's not coming 5 necessarily. Certainly not if they look good winning it. And there are 5s available right now if you like Tennessee for next week.
Teddy, let's talk an ugly matchup up next. 459-460 here. The Atlanta Falcons and the Miami Dolphins. Oh, that was a tough loss for the Dolphins on the other side of the pond. Making the trip back here at home, Hard Rock Stadium. Catching 2.5 as the home dog here. Atlanta laying the 2.5 on the road in Miami Gardens. 48 the total here, Teddy.
Now, again, we look at the look-ahead line. This is a bettable line from last week on this game. And the look-ahead line, Atlanta had the week off. All right. Miami was -2.5, total of 48 on the look-aheads. My powering number says pick 'em. The markets opened in the pick 'em range last night. It's been nothing but Falcons money ever since. It's 2.5. I don't think it goes to 3. That's why there's no doodly-oop here. I'm not seeing indications that it's going to go to 3 to get across this key number, to get to this key number. This would be a significant move, and I'm not seeing that sign. But at the same time, nobody's betting Miami right now. And again, there's 4 teams that played in London this year, including Atlanta. 3 of them got buys the next week. And now the 4th team, Miami, doesn't get a bye. And not only do they not get a bye, they're playing a team that is coming off a bye. So it's like the odds makers or the schedule makers, found a real way to screw the Dolphins. And of course, the Dolphins, how did they lose yesterday? It's real simple. Both starting cornerbacks didn't play. Davian Howard, Byron Jones. If you watch Trevor Lawrence in the second half of that game completing passes, that wouldn't happen if their starting cornerbacks were healthy. And we get the same quote out of Brian Flores every week. I'm not doing a good enough job, not playing consistently enough, not coaching well enough, and not some positive plays. But we're just not putting it together. That starts with me. We've heard that quote from Flores every week in recent weeks. Miami right now, a very difficult team to get to the window to support, especially given the spot and especially given the fact that if their cornerbacks aren't healthy, Atlanta certainly has the potential to put up points in bunches against them. Arthur Smith with extra time to repair may be a positive thing. The market's certainly looking that way in early betting action today.
Yeah, notice guys from the graphic that's a flip favorite. The favored team, like Teddy went over before, so it is now Atlanta, the -2.5 point road favorites. We get New York Jets, New England Patriots up next. AFC East battle here, Teddy. 42.5 being the total. We're seeing the Pats -7 pretty much across the board. The home favorite here, Teddy.
The look-ahead line was 7, 43.5. My powering number is 7, and the markets come out 7. And we're seeing a little bit of under money for this one, despite the fact the Patriots just played a wild shootout yesterday. Of course, the Jets coming off the bye week, a team that certainly has had their fair share of early season adversity, and yet a team that, with a first-year head coach and a rookie QB, you're expecting the Jets to come out and play with energy. And of course, they already got smacked around by Belichick and company. Now, the Patriots have some cluster injuries in the secondary right now. That's a big concern. Safety Adrian Williams left yesterday's game in a foot injury. Jonathan Jones exited with a rib injury. A couple of linebackers, Barmore and Winvich, both sidelined in the third quarter of that ball game. And of course, the Patriots are coming off. That was a war yesterday with Dallas. All right, kind of like the game. The Browns-Chargers game 2 weeks ago was a war, and then both teams had nothing in the tank yesterday. Patriots were in that kind of a war against Dallas yesterday. Bill Belichick after the game, we went toe-to-toe with a very good football team for 60 minutes. They just made a few more plays than we did. Exactly what Belichick would say. Certainly his track record against the rookie QBs is something that is not going to be ignored. But from a spot standpoint, one of these two teams is exhausted and one of these two teams is fresh. So this line's not going up from 7, certainly not at books that cater to pro bettors.
Moving on to the afternoon slate, Detroit and the LA Rams here. We're heading out west as the Lions making the trip to Los Angeles. 50 being the total. Looks like -15, -15.5, even a -16 out there for the Rams here, Teddy. What are we thinking, Lions and Rams?
So again, look ahead line -13.5 and 49. So on the other side of 2 touchdowns, the Rams looked good yesterday. The Lions did not. And now we're looking at, basically a number that has gone through the key number of 14 and even now above the 15 at many spots. My powering number as the Rams as 16-point favorites. But my powering number on these big double-digit favorites, I factor in home field as a normal, I give the normal 2 points for most home fields. And on the double-digit favorites, you probably shouldn't give that much for home field. It might be worth it. So sometimes my numbers come a little bit high on the double-digit chalk. Not always. But I do it, mathematically by rote the same way every week, so I don't get adjustments, and then I make a mental note to myself, hey, you didn't adjust for the double-digit chalk.
And Teddy, just to jump in there, why do you think that is in terms of it shouldn't be the same if it's a higher favorite at home?
Because when a team gets into the 2 touchdown range, and you're giving them extra home field edge, or a normal home field edge. It's not like they're comfortable winning this game by 2 TDs, by 2 scores. That's what they're looking to do.
Okay.
So historically, the big favorites at home don't necessarily have a bigger home edge than they would in that same spot if they're on the highway. And you can look at yesterday's card as a classic example where all these road favorites came and won and covered. The home field doesn't help the big favorites in these spots, perhaps as much as it should.
Interesting. Okay.
That's based on experience more than any other factor. When it comes to Lions and Rams, again, look ahead line was 13.5. My number 16. Obviously, Matt Stafford going against his former team is going to be the headline for this ball game. And the Lions are a bad team that's decimated with injuries. They've been shut out in the first half 3 times in 4 weeks. They haven't scored a touchdown in the first or second quarter since their opening drive of week 2. Dan Campbell after the game, that was brutal. We weren't even in that fight. That team is not 30 points better than us. Our focus wasn't there today, and that's on me. When your team gets whipped like that, you have to look at yourself first. And, of course, the only winless team remaining in the NFL, they've lost 10 straight going back to last year. Now the Jags have won. That's the NFL's longest losing streak. The cornerback, Amani Uriari, we've been on an incline, getting better every week. We didn't do that today. We still haven't played our best football, but today wasn't close. Campbell called out Goff after the game. There was, some urgency in that Lions locker room after the loss, and obviously going up against their former QB. We would expect urgency this week. I'm not expecting the Lions to look like they did in yesterday's game. And of course, the Rams, who, again, when you talk about the motivation for a team going against their former quarterback versus the former quarterback's former team going against their bottom feeder foe, I don't know. This is a Rams max motivation spot. McVay, after the game, was trying to keep the team motivated. I think we could be a lot sharper offensively. We got to start faster. There's no excuse. We have to be better than that. We'll take the win. I thought our guys did a nice job today. But it's clearly McVay's trying to keep his team from being fat and happy. That quote kind of points me in that direction. And it's a Lions spot. It might be a hold your nose and get to the window with them, but it's a Lions spot. This line's not going to get a whole lot higher than it is. I don't think it gets to 17. It's not going in that direction.
I like it, Teddy. The Lions might be the hold your nose special of the week here in the NFL. Guys, making our way down the 4 o'clock kicks. Shout out to the chat box here. Rara in the house, Clint, Kenneth, Zaps, Weedy, RJ, all you guys, welcome in. Feel free to fire out like you guys are, man. Appreciate you joining us live here, 10 a.m. Pacific, each and every Monday on the Wager Talk YouTube channel. This is the NFL opening line report. Teddy covers, myself, Drew Martin, breaking it down. Going down in rotation order. We got 465, 466 up next here, Teddy. Philadelphia Eagles, Las Vegas Raiders. Raiders -3 at home, 49 the total. Interested in your opinion here. All that's going on with the Raiders. Teddy, they go out and look good against the Broncos. What's up with this one?
Oh, they look great yesterday. I'll talk about it in a second. Look ahead line here was LA 2.5 and 48.5. My powering numbers are Raiders 3.5 here, and the market's right in between at 3. Total 48 last night. Been bet down to bet up to 48.5/49 this morning. I am seeing some 3s with juice. I'm not expecting this line necessarily to go to 3.5. The Raiders came out and played like their hair was on fire, both sides of the ball. Give them nothing but credit. Head coach Biasaka, the worst part for me was figuring out the headset. Once you got on the field and the game goes, a lot of my responsibilities were the same. It was pretty good dialogue between myself and offense coordinator Greg Olson and myself and Gus Brad, the defense coordinator. It was really collective effort going throughout the game. Certainly it's emotional for everybody, right? I think they did a good job. It's a bunch of grown men handling their emotions throughout the week, putting them in perspective when it was time to go play the game. It's a job for all of us. We seem to do a really good job with it. Now, all of a sudden, it wasn't Gruden calling the plays. It was Greg Olson calling the plays. And the offense responded very well. All right. David Carr was, he was on it all day yesterday. Big plays, downfield. Quote, there will be a time for all the emotions, but now is not the time. If anything, what this did was, for sure, brought us closer together. We needed a win bad this week. Worth noting, the first time the Raiders committed 0 turnovers and had 4 takeaways in a road game since week 7 of 1988. You know who the star of that game was? Bo Jackson. So it's been a while for the Raiders. And putting that, again, this is a team that has highs and lows. And they're coming off a real high, which has to be a concern. For Philly, again, the quotes coming out of Philadelphia were angry quotes. Nick Sirianni, we were bad in the first half. Put that one on me. There's no doubt our offense needs to be better to give ourselves a chance to win. Jalen Hurts, I haven't executed enough to win, clearly. The ball's in my hands on every play, and I enjoy that. I have to be better. I will be better. Worth noting, Sirianni going for 2 the last week. Again, you have a coach that understands analytics, all right? And the young coaches, several of the young coaches do. I talked about Zach Taylor talking about a wise guy stat that he's looking at in terms of yards per pass attempt. Sirianni going for 2 last week, again, is an indication of the newer coaches. And again, it made all the difference between covering and not covering the point spread. The difference losing by 7 and losing by 6. That's an advanced analytics move. We like that from coaches. And it's certainly a spot where the markets can be expected. I don't know if we'll see the Raiders. I don't know if we're going to see a bunch of Raiders money here. But from a spot standpoint, you worry about Vegas shooting their load last week against a Philly team that has extra time to repair and is likely to come to play.
Sure, absolutely. And talking about the Raiders overall, it's like a volatile handicap, Teddy. I was looking to fade them last week. Now it just changed real quick. Now I'm actually looking to bet on them. Do you feel the same way with that, like one way to the other?
So I lost a bet going against the Raiders yesterday. When I'm wrong about a team one
So did
week,
I.
I never flip. Never.
Okay.
Because it makes you so mad when you lose. You know, it's one of those deals where your own psychology is a piece of the equation with betting. We have many choices to bet every week. We don't have to bet every game. All right. And when you have a team one week and lose with them and then bet against them the next week and they turn around and play well and play the game they were supposed to the first week, you get really mad. I get really mad. It throws me off. So if I lose betting on a team one week, even if I see bet on signs on that team, I'm not going to bet them the next week. I have to either bet against them or leave the game alone for my own psychological sanity.
I got it, Teddy. Wisdom there from Teddy Covers. Check him out, Wager Talk and sportsmemo.com. Guys, since 2015 in the NFL betting markets, 57%. Don't see that very often at all. Some of the best numbers I've ever seen in the NFL. A sharp market here, an efficient market. Teddy Covers has beat it over the long term since 2015, 57% winners. Check him out. Wager Talk, sportsmemo.com. We got Chicago, Tampa Bay up next here, Teddy. 47 being the total, minus 13 in the hook. That's the Bucs and Raymond James.
So unfortunately, the long-term percentage is now down to, I think it's 56.4 as opposed to 56. I was rounding up to 57, and now I'm rounding down to 56. Because I had back-to-back crap weekends in the NFL. This happened last year as well, and then by the end of the year, I got it back up to 57%. So it gives me a little motivator. In that regard,
56 is nothing to shake your head at, Teddy. Just so you know.
No, and again, it's the difference between 56.4 and 56.6. I think it was, or 56.5. We round up when we get above, and we round down when we get below, and we're down to 56% right now. It is what it is. That being said, I'm not going to long term. I'm not going to complain. I can complain about what just happened, but I'm not going to complain about the long term track record. At all. Look ahead line for Bucs and the Bears was Tampa minus 10. Tampa minus 10 and 49. Now we're seeing 13s, 13 and a halfs out there. The markets were at 12 and a half last night. It's been all Bucs money so far. I don't anticipate a 14. I don't think it's going to get that high. I'm not seeing signs it's about to go to 14. So there's no emergency betting alert or anything. I like that. And the Bears yesterday was a really bizarre game. Look, Nagy had a pretty bad game plan, I got to say. And they kept on not getting calls. There was one game where they had one play where they had a free play, and Fields chucks it up to his receiver, and it gets picked off, but the flag never got thrown for the offsides. And there's no way to challenge that. No, that's an interception. And then there was another play where Fields chucked it up. There was a delay of game penalty that pushed him out of field goals, and Fields was calling for timeout with 2 seconds left on the clock, and the refs didn't see it or didn't call it, and they get a delay of game, and it cost them a field goal attempt. Weird game for Chicago. Defense failed when it mattered most. Offense failed when it mattered most. No deep shots, no called quarterback runs. It was a baffling game plan for a team that had momentum and was playing for first place against an opponent that they're supposed to bring their A game for, and the Bears brought about a C game yesterday, which maybe is who they are. And of course, the Bucs quotes, they are what they are, Tom Brady, quote, after beating Philly, tough to win on the road. Obviously, we didn't play our best, so we have to get back to work. We got to get better. That's what we expect out of Tampa. Every week we get that. Worth noting, when you talk about injuries that matter, maybe not so much for this matchup, but they have big-time cluster injuries in the secondary. Antoine Winfield hurt. Carlton Davis hurt. Sean Murphy-Bunting hurt. Richard Sherman just went down. Bruce Arians, we just have to keep playing with the guys we have and see how long the injury is. Next man up that works to a point, and no one's even trying to run on Tampa right now, which means, the Bucs front seven is unrunnable against. So it's all passing, and that's certainly not something that bodes well for Justin Fields and company. And bad loss for Chicago yesterday. We'll see how they bounce back against the defending champs. But certainly from a value standpoint, again, this was minus 10 look ahead line last week, and now it's 13 and a half. So you can tell which way the markets are looking. It's all Tampa Bay money.
Sure, Teddy. And the same type of profile of money piling on a favorite here at home. Houston and Arizona next game up. The final afternoon kick here, 425, 125 Pacific kick. -17 is what we're seeing the Cardinals now at home. 47.5 being the total. And we're talking the Houston Texans at the Arizona Cardinals here in Glendale, Arizona. Teddy, what are we thinking here?
Look at line 14.5 and 49.5. I've got the Texans as the worst team in the NFL, and Arizona as a top 5 team. And I gave Arizona 2 points home field, and I came up with 15.5 as my powering number. So the market's given this spread, they're even pricing, maybe they're pricing the Texans way worse than everybody else, or maybe they're pricing Arizona as a top 2 team. But the markets aren't. Even the Super Bowl markets aren't there with Arizona. They're the 5th choice, the 8th choice. I understand they're undefeated. I understand they had a blowout win yesterday. Houston didn't have any blowout wins yesterday. They scored 3 touchdowns in the last 12 quarters. They've been kept out of the end zone twice in the last 3 weeks. Head coach David Culley. I felt like, and they played a competitive game for a half. It was 10-3 at the half against Indy. I felt like we came out in the second half. It was very important to us to get a stop, and we got the stop. But the next series, we threw an interception, and then they got a big play, and it kind of snowballed from there. And this is a team. Their starting center's hurt now, Justin Britt. Their left tackle's hurt, Laramie Tunsil. It's not like they have a bevy of downfield weapons. And again, they got outgained 8.1 yards per play to 4.8 in that loss to Indy yesterday, failing on both sides of the football. There's not going to be any market support for Houston. They are the worst team in the NFL, as they were projected to be coming into the season, and that was with Taylor at quarterback, Davis Mills. They can't overcome. Anytime the Texans get a false start penalty and it's 1st and 15, the drive is done. It's like no adversity that team can overcome. And as for Arizona, no Cliff Kingsbury, no Chandler Jones, who had COVID. The QB coach was out. Vance Joseph. It was a rough week. The defense coordinator. No one wavered. No one blinked. Every day it was bad news. Kyler Murray. I think we were even more excited because the odds seemed stacked against us at Cleveland. It was on us to give them our best. Now, this week, maybe everybody comes back. Flat spot for Arizona? Probably.
Yeah, and Teddy, talking about COVID concerns with the coaching staff, is that something, you're looking at strongly here? Cliff Kingsbury out, some offensive assistance, or is this kind of to the point where they already look good, they're coming back home, and just it is what it is?
There were 2 coaching circumstances that stood out as everyone as big red flags last week. All right. Arizona without Kingsbury and the Raiders without Gruden. Arizona killed them, and the Raiders killed them. So, again, short sample size. But I think it would be a different story if Kingsbury didn't play this week at home against a less – it's one thing when you're going on the road to Cleveland and you're dogs. Now you're at home against a bottom feeder. I don't think that Arizona finds the same juice this time around. And, and the irony, of course, is that Murray made a bunch of mistakes yesterday. And they still scored 37 points and 1 going away. So I finished 4 touchdowns, no INTs. At the end, it was one of those box scores. Look after the game. I'm like, that wasn't what I saw. Yeah, I guess it was.
Right. As we got Sunday Nighter and Monday Nighter to finish it, guys. Appreciate everybody joining us live. Well over 400 people watching live. If you could please smash that like button if you're liking the content. Also, huge shout out to last week, the 170 comments here on the YouTube channel. We'll be answering them again this week. Appreciate the questions. Any questions here, we'll try to answer as many as possible before we shut it down. But the Sunday Nighter here, we get Indianapolis at San Francisco, Teddy, 44.5, 45 being the total. The 49ers, -3.5 at Levi Stadium.
Yeah, look ahead line with San Fran -5.5, 44.5. My powering number comes out 3.5, and the markets were at 4 last night. It's been all Indy money so far, down to 3.5, even a 3.5 even money out there. That being said, I don't think it goes any lower. I do not think this line goes to 3, hence the lack of an emergency betting alert for this one. If there were still 4s out there, I'd have screamed emergency betting alert, but that's just not the case. The 4s have all been taken out before we went on. Now, we don't know yet who's going to be a quarterback for San Francisco. Shanahan, after their last game, talking about Trey Lance as the temporary, not the permanent starter. Quote, no, nothing has changed. That was just one game. And I'll talk to our whole team tomorrow and think about how we can get our whole team better coming back from the bye. He was optimistic that Jimmy G was going to be back in time for this game. And remember, this is an offense that was designed for Jimmy G's skill set. Jimmy G and Trey Lance do not have the same skill set. If you watch the Arizona game, you saw all these holding calls because Trey Lance was making things happen in a way that Jimmy G doesn't in the backfield, whether he was running, whether he was escaping pressure or matriculating the ball downfield, and the Niners' offensive line wasn't prepped for it. If he plays here, one would think there'd be a better game plan. And certainly San Fran, off the loss, off the bye, it's the type of game that we have to expect the 49ers to come to play. Now, that being said, Shanahan and extra time to prepare hasn't been that great. And Shanahan, his entire track record in San Francisco, one Super Bowl season and a bunch of mediocrity. As for the Colts, again, 8.1 yards to 4.8 yards per play yesterday. Complete domination. Frank Reich, we had to feel what it feels like to win this way. Defensively, getting turnovers. Offensively, getting those chunk plays. Special teams playing solid with a good step. Their defense has played really well. But in terms of defensive class, going from Houston to San Fran is a pretty big step up. And look, Indy offensively is going to continue to have their fair share of issues, though T.Y. Hilton came off IR and was a difference maker yesterday. Colts are a team that I've unfortunately had a wrong read on early. I've upgraded them fairly significantly over the course of the last couple of weeks, and based on the betting action, so have the markets.
Last game up, guys, the Monday Nighter. Remember to check out wagertalk.com. Teddy covers, Drew Martin Page, $9 Monday. All plays discounted to just $9. The Monday Nighter here, Teddy. New Orleans Saints on the road, the Pacific Northwest here to take on the Seattle Seahawks. Russell Wilson lifts most likely. -5 here. Saints road favorite, 44 being the total, Teddy.
Yeah, look-ahead line here was Saints -3 and 43.5. My powering number was only 2.5. For New Orleans, but in terms of like the most confident number I've had, it's not. And the markets basically bet up the Saints that were 3s, and now they're pretty much all 3.5s out there as we speak. Of course, New Orleans coming off the bye week, and they should have a bunch of guys healthy coming out of the bye. They had, and we'll have to see who ends up playing, but Michael Thomas is an impact player. Traquan Smith is an impact player. Taron Armstead and Eric McCoy on the offensive line, an impact player. The kicker, Will Lutz, all those guys could be back this week, and that will make the Saints a much better team if that's the case. As for Seattle, we'll give Geno Smith credit for rallying the Seahawks back last night. I thought he played tough as hell. He was clear and calm and poised and exactly like you hope he'd be. The game was not too big for him at all, and yet, what happens when Geno Smith games? He finds a way to lose. A sack, fumble, ball game. And it was a field goal. Could have been a touchdown, but it was a field goal. I mean, if you watch Geno's career, that's what happens. And in this case, in that point spread range, that could be an issue for Seattle. Look, this is a 2-4 Seahawks team that has issues on the defensive side of the ball, is playing with the backup QB, doesn't have a great running game. Yeah, there's plenty of red flags in Seattle right now, and the markets are obviously responding with the Saints 3.5 just about everywhere.
I like it, Teddy. That does it for all the games here. We got a bunch of people chiming in the chat box, and plus those comments from last week, guys. Please feel free to jump down in the comments. Let us know what you're thinking here. Teddy, did you have something you forgot to say?
Yeah. I had to reload the page. There's been a huge move on the Saints since we got on air. The 3.5s are gone. The 4s are gone. The 4.5 and 5s out there right now.
5s, yeah.
So, and literally, this happened. This all happened in the last half hour or so. So I didn't see it until we just talked about it. So I had to, I've been saying 3.5. 3.5s are gone. 4.5, 5, and that has to be based on the injury news that we saw from New Orleans this morning. With all those guys I talked about who, in theory, should be back here, that, in theory, could make the Saints a contender instead of an afterthought in the NFC.
And Teddy, you talked about the Cardinals. A couple people in here, Greg being one of them, saying who beats the Cardinals this season? 6-0, looking good on the road as well. I mean, they got the Green Bay Packers coming up. That was one I would circle. That could be a loss for the Cardinals. Teddy, anything here with Greg's comment in terms of also at San Francisco coming up? So those are two I'm circling. But anything you got thoughts on with the Arizona Cardinals? Maybe projecting out what their end of the season record will be.
If they come flat, they'll lose to Houston this week. It's the NFL, all right? This isn't college where Clemson or, Alabama's going to play Akron 5,000 times and Alabama's going to win 5,000 times. In the NFL, teams that come out and play flat and have turnover-filled performances lose a game. Arizona's not going undefeated. What possible losses could they have? You talked about Green Bay. You talked about San Fran. Then after the division game, they have a division sandwich game at home against Carolina. It's not like they play their best ball at home. The Panthers are playing well right then. They could lose that game. They have to travel up to Seattle. They could lose that game. At Chicago, they could lose that game. And Arizona's not built for December games in Chicago. They have the Rams at home. They could lose that game. At Detroit, they're supposed to win, but, they're coming off a huge Monday night game. It's on a short week against a division foe. They could lose that game. Then they have Indy at home. Say the Colts are playing for something. They could lose that game. They have to travel to Dallas in week 16 or that's week 17 now because it's an 18-week season. They could lose that game in the finale. If they lose all those games, they're not winning the finale against Seattle at home. They could lose them all. They could. That's why they play the game.
He's Teddy Covers. Follow him on Twitter at Teddy_Covers. Check out his work. WagerTalk, Guys, it's $9 Monday. Huge shout out to the 170 people commented last week. Guys, feel free to leave any comments below on the YouTube channel. Please smash that like button. Teddy, throw it over to you. Any final thoughts before we shut this down?
Yeah, and again, I apologize for not getting to more questions today, but if you have questions, just throw them in the chat. Throw them in the comment section over at YouTube. Drew and I are both in there throughout the course of the week. Really appreciate the following that we've gotten. If you like this show, please tell your friends about it. We're trying to blow this thing up this football season. So thanks so much for taking time out of your day, and we'll do it again next week right here on The Opening Line.
Come back next week, guys. 10 a.m. Pacific time, NFL Opening Line Report for Week 8. He's Teddy Covers. I'm Drew Martin. Thanks for tuning in. Please smash that like button. We'll talk next week, guys. Best of luck with your bets.
Thousands of you enjoyed the NHL Opening Week $9 special, so it's only fair that we offer the NBA fans the same deal. Every NBA daily package for the opening week through Monday, October 25th is just $9. That's right, you will not be paying $25 for a package, nor will you be paying $35 for 5% best bets for the opening week of the NBA, as all daily basketball packages are only $9. Make sure to tune in every Monday through Friday for the NBA tip-off show on Wager Talk TV, and then save and start the NBA season with a slam dunk deal.